Have you ever thought about starting your own podcast? When I was trying to get the podcast off the ground, I had a lot of questions. How do I record an episode? How do I get my show into all the apps people like to listen to? How do I make money from my own podcast? The answer to one of these questions is really simple. Anchor. Anchor is one of the top shop for recording, hosting, and distributing your podcast. Best of all, it's 100% free and ridiculously easy to use. And now, Anchor can match you with great sponsors who want to advertise on your podcast. That means you get paid to podcast right away. In fact, that's what I'm going to do right now by reading this app. I like Anchor just because it's free to use and it's super user-friendly as well. And it puts all your podcasts on Spotify and iTunes with just a click of a button. So if you have always wanted to start a podcast, make money doing it, go to anchor.fm/start. That's anchor.fm/start. To join me and the diverse community of podcasters already using Anchor. That's anchor.fm/start. I can't wait to hear your podcast.
Good evening, Class B basketball fans, and welcome to the Class B podcast presented by the North Dakota Basketball Hub. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter at ND Basketball Hub, and you can also find us, we have a website as well at www.northdakotabasketballhub.com, where you can find stats and schedules and feature stories and top 5 stories and just a whole heck of a lot of Class B basketball stuff. Girls and boys. It's a very special website we just dropped here at the beginning of 2019, so make sure and go check that out. This is our first ever episode here, and soon it'll be March, but it's never too late to start something. And I know the girls' basketball season is getting close to being done. There's a couple more games left on schedule for everybody, and the boys are about halfway through, and March is going to be here in no time. But it's never too late to start anything, so we figured it's a good time to start it. We have some good content rolling your guys' way, so make sure to follow us on Facebook and Twitter and check out our website as well. Basketball season. Really. Think about that on your drive to work this morning, or if you're listening to this on Sunday night when you're going to the gym. Is there anything better than basketball season? Honestly, for me, there's not. I love all sports. I'm a big football guy, but I really do enjoy basketball. I love baseball too. I actually enjoy going to cross-country meets and track and field meets as well. Hockey, I'm getting into a little more and more now in North Dakota, but basketball season, that's my thing, and I super enjoy that. I don't know if there's anything better than basketball season. You know, when I think about it, just off the top of my head, Minnesota Vikings Super Bowl, that'd be super nice. That might be better than basketball season. Really, any professional sports team title would be splendid. You know, we're going to have to wait until May, until we get the real champs back on the basketball court with the Minnesota Lynx. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Class B podcast presented by the North Dakota Basketball Hub. I'm your host, Pace Meyer. I've been covering Class B basketball and football and baseball and cross country and track and field and everything under the sun, Class B-wise, since January of 2017. If that's any indication of why you should be listening to this podcast, yeah, I've been doing this for a couple years. I'm not saying I know everything, but I think I have a pretty good eye for stuff. So thank you guys for joining us on the first ever episode of the Class B podcast. I started the North Dakota Basketball Hub around the first of the new year of 2019, just kind of with the intention of trying to grow the high school sports brand. I know there's a few other websites like the NorthDakotaBasketballHub.com. It's kind of not as similar, I guess I would say. They're not the same in any way, maybe bits and pieces, but the North Dakota Basketball Hub is like your one-stop shop for all Class B basketball stuff, girls and boys. If you guys check out the website, you know, we have stat leaderboards. I try and update them as fast and to the best of my ability as I can. If you want to send stats our way, our email is northdakotabasketballhub@gmail.com. Again, northdakotabasketballhub@gmail.com. You know, I'm always rifling through the papers and stuff, trying to find box scores and girls and boys, since this is the North Dakota Basketball Hub, the home of girls and boys basketball, everything Class B. I'm always doing girls and boys, so it always gets tricky. Sometimes some teams send their stuff to a paper, sometimes some don't, and it makes a match. So if you do want to send, stats, rebounds, points, assists, steals, blocks, whatever, just send them to our Gmail. And you guys have that now, so that'd be super cool as well. You'll also find articles on players and teams and feature stories. Again, if you have any story suggestions, anything like that, you have our email, northdakotabasketballhub@gmail.com. Send us stuff our way, and we'll gladly take a look at it and see if we can produce some content out of that. The North Dakota Basketball Hub, like I said, is kind of that one-stop shop. And, really, that's all you need to know. Today's episode is special not only because it is our first ever podcast episode, but we have our first ever interview with a head coach as well. Mike Sanger of Rugby's boys basketball team was kind enough to talk to us for about 10 minutes Friday morning. And just keep in mind, before you guys listen to the interview with that head coach, the Panthers, who they were ranked number 2 in Class B this whole last week, they actually suffered their first loss of the season to Carrington, 59-51 on the road on Saturday, and that obviously was a day after we interviewed Coach Sanger. So just keep that in mind, because the interview is going to probably sound like the Panthers are still undefeated and they're still kind of ranked in that number 2 spot as well. Come Monday, they're probably Monday evening when the Class B polls come out, they're probably not going to be ranked in that number 2 spot. So just keep that in mind. We talked to Coach for, like I said, for about 12 minutes on Friday. On Saturday, they suffered their first loss of the season. And now there's only one undefeated team left in Class B boys with Thompson. So just keep that in mind when you guys listen to the interview. And now we'll just kind of get into our stuff. We'll talk a little bit, kind of run down with the episode today. We'll talk Class B rankings, both girls and boys, for the first part of our podcast. And then we'll roll through the interview and you guys can hear that. So I hope you guys enjoy. And like I said, follow us on Facebook and Twitter. If you have any comments, questions, concerns, let us know. All right. Before we get into the interview, let's talk some Class B rankings. As many of you know, every Monday evening around 7 p.m., the new rankings drop. Girls and boys, they drop Monday evening. So if you'd like to check them out, you can follow us on Facebook and Twitter at ND Basketball Hub as we post them ASAP once they're dropped. Or you can check out our website, www.northdakotabasketballhub.com, and we have a rankings tab. If you look up top on the website, you'll see a rankings tab that has the updated rankings every week. For most of the season, Thompson has been ranked number 1 in both girls and boys, polls, but that's going to change this week. So we'll kind of start with the girls polls first. We'll just kind of run down, what last week's rankings were, what happened to each team, who won, who lost, and everything like that. And then I'll kind of say, is this team going to move up a spot, move down a spot, move out of the top 10, move into the top 10. So we'll kind of start with the girls basketball rankings first. And obviously Thompson, who, like I said, they were undefeated coming into the week. They lost to the number 3 ranked team, who was Grafton. Both of those teams are from Region 2. They lost to them on Tuesday, 51-42. And then a couple days later, they had a 75-31 win over Sacred Heart, who was a team from Minnesota. That Thompson-Grafton game was interesting. Grafton played a pretty balanced basketball. But everyone was scoring. Carly Sieben was obviously the top scorer there. But once you looked at Thompson's, what they did, you will notice that Taylor Zach, one of their better players, she finished with just 2 points against the Spoilers on Tuesday. That's not going to get it done. If you're Thompson, they're a pretty deep team. I believe Macy Jordheim had 20 points against the Spoilers on Tuesday, which is good. But, Thompson's that balanced team, much like Grafton. And Taylor Zach, she's usually scoring in the mid, 15, 16, 17 points. And then everyone else is kind of behind her, scoring, 12, 13, and even 10 points as well. But she bounced back. Taylor Zach bounced back, the senior, against Sacred Heart, and scored double digits against them in that big win. So Thompson, who is probably going to move back maybe a spot or 2. I don't see them falling out of the top 3 just because Grafton is number 3 ranked. They're a solid team. There's nothing to gawk about Grafton as well. So that was a good game. Possibly a preview of what could come in the Region 2 tournament. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. So there's going to be a little bit of a shakeup at that number 1 spot. And a team that could slide into number 1, I always thought this is going to be interesting to see what the voters do here. But the number 2 team last week was Kidder County. I think Kidder County is going to move into that number 1 spot. I truly do think so. I think it should be tough for the voters to jump Grafton over a 15-0 Kidder County team. The Wolves undefeated on the year. I think they'll move up to that number 1 spot. And so it'll be interesting to see kind of what the voters do. But the Wolves had wins this past week over New Salem Almont and a 62-54 win over the number 10 ranked team in Linton HMB. So that's why I think that they should stay ahead of Grafton. Just because Grafton did beat the number 1 team, you see Kidder County did beat a number 10 team in Linton HMB to keep their 15-0 season continuing. So I think they'll jump up to that number 1 spot as well. Grafton, who we talked about here quite heavily in the first 2 minutes of the Class B girls rankings, but they're a 12-1 team. I just don't think they'll jump Kidder County just because they're 12-1. Yeah, I know they beat Thompson. I get that, but I don't think it's going to happen. The Spoilers took care of business after their Thompson win against Cavalier, 80-36. So my top 3, I believe, is going to go Kidder County, Grafton, and Thompson. Thompson's going to stay in the top 3. The number 4 team coming into the week was Velva. Velva had a 50-49 loss to TGU last weekend, 2 weeks ago. But it doesn't seem that 1-point loss, 50-49, has really shaken them at all. They have won 3 straight, and they throttled, I believe it was Drake Animus 91-18 on Tuesday for a win. It was their only game of the week. I don't see Velva moving at all. I don't see them moving up into the top 3, and I don't see them moving down, considering they only had 1 game and they demolished Drake Animus there by a whole heck of a lot. The farthest I'll see Thompson falling is 3, so that's why I think Velva will stay in that number 4 spot. Number 5 coming into the week was Langdon Edmore Munich. After those 2 losses, Langdon Edmore Munich has bounced back. They had that double overtime 4-point loss to Thompson. And after that, the Cardinals have been rolling quite well. Langdon Edmore Munich had 2 wins against Rowlett Walford and Medina Pingree Buchanan this week. And I wouldn't expect any change there. Staying at number 5, I don't think they'll jump up to number 4 Velva, and I don't think they'll drop to, obviously they're not going to drop, they didn't lose. So that number 5 spot, they'll hold on to that for another week. Number 6 was Rugby. Rugby played in the Minot Auditorium Holiday Shootout this past week and picked up wins against Shiloh Christian and Botno. However, the Panthers suffered a slim 44-43 loss to Carrington on Saturday, just a couple days ago. Carrington actually, who was receiving votes this past week, I think they'll actually crack the top 10 this week with that win over Rugby. Rugby's a solid team. I like how they play fast. But in games decided by 10 points or less this season, the Panthers are just 3-2. Yeah, I'll take the above 500 record, but in close games, do they show up? I don't know. So I think Rugby's gonna probably move down a spot or 2. I don't see them falling out of the top 10 because I do think they're at least. I think they're a top 5 team. I truly do, and I think they'll be back up there before the season's end. Number 7 was Kindred. The Vikings had 1 game this week and defeated a top 10 team in number 8 ranked Lemoore Litchfield Marion by just 8 points. Still a very good win for the Vikings. Last week, Kindred lost to Thompson in that triple overtime game. Hopefully, a couple of you guys saw that. Wonderful game. Very, very exciting game. Probably the most exciting game that we'll have this season, especially at least in the regular season. The Vikings have the 11th ranked. So if you guys don't know, K-Mav and Craig Keating, they do a wonderful job. I believe the website's Class B. Is it ClassBBasketball.com or is it ClassBRankings.com? I believe it's ClassBBasketball.com. And they kind of have all the trends for girls and boys teams, their RPI ranking, and Craig does his own ranking, and then I believe there's a computer ranking as well. But the Vikings have the 11th RPI ranking according to ClassBBasketball.com. I would suspect that Kindred and Rugby will swap spots. With Rugby's loss to Carrington, we'll move them down. Kindred, didn't lose, won a game to a ranked team, so Kindred will probably be bumped up to number 6. It'll be interesting to see if Kindred can actually jump Langdon Edmore Munich at the number 5 spot. I just don't see that happening. So Kindred's highest spot, I think, for me at least, will be number 6. And then number 8, the team that lost to Kindred. The Lobos are a top 10 team in my mind. So with the loss to Kindred, this past week, I really don't see them falling out of the top 10. But I think they will move back a spot or two, maybe to 10, maybe to 9. I'm going to say they'll drop to 10. They'll drop to 10. But then again, Kindred is a ranked team as well. It was a close game, 8 points. Heck. Lemoore, Litchfield, Marion. I'll give you a pass. You'll drop to 9 in mine. But the Lobos have one of the most important weeks coming up here. They have 2 games this week against a 12-2 Carrington team who just obviously knocked off a top 10 team, and then they'll play after they play Carrington, they'll play a 12-3 Oaks team. So Lobos got a tough week. This could be make or break season here if they go 0-2. Heck, they're out of the top 10 in my mind. If they go 2-0, heck, they could climb into the top 5 in my mind with 2 wins like that, 2 big wins like that. Number 9, kind of been there all year long, is Trenton. The Tigers picked up their 11th, 12th, and 13th win of the season this past week. They have yet to lose a game. They played well enough to move up to this past week to the number 8 spot. They'll move up 1 spot just with I think Lemoore, Litchfield, Marion, and Trenton will swap spots. I think that's all the farther that Trenton will climb, and that's all the farther Lemoore, Litchfield, Marion will fall. However, the Tigers are an interesting team because they've only played 1 game this season where the outcome hasn't ended with a double-digit win. I believe it was during the middle of the season, or it was late December. They beat a team by 7 points. Other than that, they've been demolishing teams by double digits or more. So are the voters kind of holding that against them, that they maybe haven't played the competition as some of these other top teams have? Possibly. But heck, if you win 11, if you win your 12th, and you win your 13th game this past week and no losses on the schedule, that's pretty good. The number 10 team, coming into the week, it was Linton HMB. It's kind of a tough week for Linton. They lost to Kidder County by 8 points, and then they lost their head coach, Brian Flyberg, after a pending criminal investigation, first reported by KXNet.com on Friday. The Lintons have 3 games left, but I think they'll fall out of the top 10 just because Carrington, of what they did this past week. I think Carrington will climb up to that number 10 spot, and Linton will move down. They'll still receive votes, no doubt about that. They're a very solid team. But I think Carrington can jump them for that number 10 spot as they'll fall out of the top 10. So very, very quickly, that was kind of my rundown of the Class B girls rankings there, and who I think will fall and who I think will rise and where everything will sit come Monday evening at 7 p.m. Moving on to the boys. Obviously, number 1 team who's been there. The Thompson Tommies are the only undefeated team left after Cavalier and Rugby lost this past week. Thompson did get a scare on Monday when they played Midway Minto. I think the game ended. The Tommies won, obviously, but I think it was close. It was 61-54, I believe. So, Thompson obviously has a target on their back. Every game they go into, doesn't matter who it is, everyone's going to give them their best game, and Midway Minto did give them their best game on Monday. Until someone takes this region team down, I believe Thompson, if we could put money on it, if we could put bets on it, I believe Thompson's the favorite to win the state tournament. I truly believe that. Now with Caden Schwabe back, and the team's just solid all around, up and down its roster, from point guard to center, into the paint, everywhere. The team is solid. So if you could play some high school bets, which I know you can't, but if you could, I think Thompson's the favorite to win it all. The number 2 team this past week was Rugby. It was short-lived, obviously, but Rugby can say they spent more time near the top. They spent some time near the top of the Class B polls this season, and that's got to be good. And heck, their record's still good, and heck, I still think they're a top 5 team. The Panthers beat Enrose on Thursday by 34, and then obviously they lost to Carrington by 8 points on Saturday. As much as I like Rugby, this team has a lot of talent and a lot of height, but I think they'll drop 3 or 4 spots in this week's poll just because of what the teams behind them, like Hillsborough Central Valley, 4 wins, and a few of the other teams like Kindred and stuff. Just from what's behind them, I think Rugby is going to get jumped by a couple teams here come Monday. The number 3 team on the boys' side was Hillsborough Central Valley. This team trailed Richland by 13 earlier this season at halftime. They trailed 4 wins Minnewacan by 14 at one point in that game recently. And then they trailed Cavalier by 11 on Thursday at the halftime break. But every single one of those games they came out on top. The Burros won each one of those games. The Burros' only loss of the season, obviously, came against Thompson. Region 2 is so stacked, man. It is so stacked, and it's so impossible to predict what is going to happen in the postseason tournament. Grafton's there. Cavaliers there. Thompson's there. Hillsborough Central Valley's there. Midway Minto is there. It's just too impossible to predict what's going to happen come postseason. But still a lot of basketball to be played, so we'll see what happens. It's going to be so fun. It's just like when the polls come out on Monday, it's going to be obviously Thompson 1, Hillsborough Central Valley 2. Both in Region 2. Just great teams. Man, it's setting up to be a wonderful postseason. Wonderful postseason basketball. That's what all I can say about that. Number 4 team was Four Winds Minnewacan. The Indians escaped New Rockford Cheyenne on Monday and then rolled over Benson County by 23 on Thursday to put a winning streak together after losing to Hillsborough Central Valley at home on January 11th. When the polls come out, I think, like I said, the top Four Winds will take that top spot. And that 1, 2, 3 spot, Thompson, Hillsborough Central Valley, and Four Winds Minnewacan, that'll be the top. That'll be the strongest top 3 I think we'll see all season long, no matter what happens after this. The number 5th ranked team was Richland. They had one game this week and lost to Central Cass in overtime, 72-69. The Colts are now 3-2 in their last 5 games. I don't think the loss to Central Cass will bump the Colts out of the top 10. I think they'll stay there because Richland is a very good team. I think Richland is a very, very solid team. A lot of athletes on the team. A lot of fast guys on that team. Central Cass, though, they don't have the sexiest record this season. I believe they're 6-4, but they've given it all to Thompson and Grafton, and then obviously they beat Richland. They lost to double digits to a couple other ranked teams. I believe they lost to New Rockford Cheyenne and one other team escapes my mind right now. But Central Cass is no joke. They'll be seen in Region 1 as well when postseason play comes around. But Richland won't follow the top 10. They maybe a couple spots, maybe to 7 or 8. But if there is a good loss, yeah, that's an okay loss. Number 6 team. Did I say number 16? I don't know. The number 16 sounds like I say 16. The number 6 team coming into the week was Cavalier. The Tornadoes probably had the worst week out of any team in Class B boys. They lost to Hillsborough Central Valley by 4 on Thursday, and then the next day they lost to Grafton by 1. So very tough. Cavaliers trying to come into the rankings and blow them up and try and make some noise, and then they lose back-to-back games to Region 2 teams. That's kind of tough. But in my mind, I think Cavalier is a top 5 team. No joke. I'm not lying. I think they're a top 5 team in Class B. They're big 3. They have their own big 3 with the Carrier cousins and then Colton Raczynski and sophomore Brady Kluche. Isn't a bad underclassman either. He came in against Hillsborough Central Valley, knocked down a 3-pointer, and played some very solid defense. So, in my mind, if I could pick my top 5, it would go Thompson, Hillsborough Central Valley, Four Winds Minnewacan, Rugby, and a 2-loss Cavalier team. That's where my top 5 lies. I don't think the voters are going to agree with me on that one, and that's fine. I think Cavalier is going to fall possibly. I think they might fall out of the top 10. I don't think that's right, but the number 6 ranked team, you lose back-to-back games. Obviously one you are leading against Hillsborough Central Valley by 13, and so that's a tough loss. But then you lose to Grafton, who's also a solid team in Region 2. But back-to-back losses in 1 week like that, I just think that they might get bumped out of the top 10. Number 7 team, and the team that I think is possibly the most underrated this season for some reason. I just don't know why, but Kindred. I think they'll bump up to number 5. I think they'll bump up to number 5 with the voters and what they'll do. I think they'll hit up that spot. They've really put a good season together after suffering that season opening loss to HCV. Like I said, I feel like the Vikings are underrated. Not many people give them a lot of love, which, 5 of their 9 wins have come against teams 500 or worse. So if you really want to look into things, there's a number 1 problem right there. But at the end of the day, they're winning. They're winning games. They're not losing games. They've lost 1 game this year, and if they continue to win, I can see them I can see them climb in the polls, and I think they'll climb a couple spots here on Monday. The number 8 team coming into the week was Shiloh Christian. The team with the number 1 RPI ranking has won 9 straight contests after losing 2 of their first 3 games. The Skyhawks are coming off a 2-0 record this past week with wins over New Salem Almont and Solon. The Skyhawks, in my mind, are the toughest team to prepare for, just because coaches have a tough. Who are you going to stop? Are you going to stop the 6'9" center Young, or are you going to try and slow down one of the Class B's top scorers in Jaden Mintzel? Oh, and also don't forget about the 3-ball shooter in Matthew Reap, who scored 37 points earlier this season. So the Skyhawks, I could see them moving not into the top 5 this week, but to 6. I could see them moving up 6 spots, not up 6 spots, but to the 6th spot. The number 9 team, New Rockford Cheyenne. It'll be interesting to kind of see what the voters do here with the Rockets. They dropped a 67-57 loss to the 4-ranked team in 4 wins Minnewacan this week, and then bounced back with a 63-46 victory over North Star. New Rockford Cheyenne's on that cusp of not staying in, of staying in. 1-1 this week. Do the voters bump New Rockford Cheyenne out for a 12-1 White Shield team, or does a 7-3 Beulah squad, or even somebody else take over New Rockford Cheyenne's spot, which I could possibly see. I don't think come Monday, I don't think New Rockford Cheyenne will be in the top 10. Number 10 and the final squad here on the Class B rankings coming into the week was Bishop Ryan. Like Kindred, I feel like Bishop Ryan's a little underrated this season. Hate it, love it, don't have anything to say about it. I just think they are a little bit. The Lions have been dominated by Shiloh Christian and Thompson, and I think that's where the voters are clinging on to. Those 2 big losses, I think the voters are really clinging on to. But with 2 big wins this past week over Surrey and Glenburn, I think Bishop Ryan will swap with New Rockford Cheyenne, and then New Rockford Cheyenne will get bumped out probably by White Shield. I know that was a lot of talking and a lot of information thrown your guys' way, but that's just kind of what I think of the Class B girls and boys rankings as we head into this new week. There'll definitely be some shakeups, and you can definitely expect that. But at the end of the day, any team can win on any given night. So rankings are rankings, and I know they mean a little bit, but again, it is January 21st, and there is not that much of the season left for the girls, regular season wise. But boys, obviously, have half the season or so left, but it'll be interesting finish to the season. So make sure you go and watch some Class B basketball, before the region tournaments start, as we get into those very, very soon. As always, guys, remember to follow us on Facebook and Twitter at ND Basketball Hub, and bookmark our website at www.northdakotabasketballhub.com for all the latest and greatest Class B content. All right, guys. So as we get into this interview with Rugby's head boys basketball coach, Mike Sanger, thank you guys for listening. Hope you guys enjoy the first ever podcast. Can you believe that? The first ever podcast. And the schedule for the podcast, I would like to come out 3 times a week, but it'll be interesting. I also like to get a lot of Class B basketball in every night, and watch some players and teams and coaches and everything like that. So 2 to 3 times a week this will come out, and I'm thinking maybe like a Wednesday, Sunday, or maybe like a Monday, Sunday. Probably more, not a Monday, Sunday, sorry. Probably more like a Wednesday and Friday, Sunday, or like a Friday, Sunday. So just follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and our website just to keep up with the podcast schedule. All right, guys, thanks for listening, and here's your interview with Rugby's head boys basketball coach, Mike Sanger. Well, you guys are one of 2 remaining teams. I believe it's Thompson and then yourself in Rugby, undefeated this season. Since Cavalier lost last night, how have you guys been able to bring that consistency and intensity night in and night out and continue to win games every night?
Well, we brought back a lot of our team from last year. We only graduated 2 seniors off of three seniors off of last year's team, but we brought back a lot of kids that played a lot of minutes for us, and so we just kind of made the transition. We had some kids that played the positions that were vacated by the seniors, so they kind of stepped in and filled their role, and we haven't so far lost a step off of last year. Really kind of coming back and kind of just trying to start over and continue what we had going at the end of last year. For
sure. Who are the guys you kind of lean on this year?
We bring back most of our scoring. It's our juniors. Trace Gilman, he's been playing. He's been on varsity since he's an 8th grader. Devin Michaels, who's super athletic defender, and then Jaden Hamilton, who's a long and very offensively gifted. Those three are kind of our nucleus of where most of our points come from, night in and night out. And then we have a great group of role players that fill the voids for us when we need to.
You guys have some height on the roster, it looks like. Do you guys use that to your advantage?
Yeah, we're long. We don't have a real big-bodied kid, a real banger, but we have quite a bit of long, athletic kids. So defensively we use that to our advantage. We play some zone defense. We get in passing lanes, and we try and speed up the tempo that way.
Definitely. There are a few teams this year in the top 10, quote-unquote top 10, have played a pretty tough schedule. You guys played, obviously, a ranked New Rockford Cheyenne, and Dunseith's pretty good as well. Do you guys feel that your schedule is near the top of others in Class B?
Yeah. Every year we try and get out, and if we have to make some changes to our schedule, we do. We always play Forwinds, we always play Beulah, and then as the years go on, we try and schedule teams that are consistently good. So we try and get as many games as we can, at least out of our district, games that are as good as we can. We have Ryan on our schedule and Dunseith again coming up later on in the year. So we have a pretty good schedule.
You guys, like you said, you have a tough schedule. Finishing the year, February 5th, 4 wins, Minnewacan. February 12th, Bishop Bryan, and then you finish off the year with Dunseith. 2 out of those 3 are at home. How do you guys not, look too much ahead and focus on the games that are right in front of you?
With this crew, it's pretty easy. They just love to play basketball, and they love to play games. So they look forward to any time that it's not a practice, really. So they stay pretty focused. Yeah, we talk about the target gets bigger on your back as you get higher up in the rankings, and the more games you win, there's always a team that wants to be the first to be able to put a blemish on your record and that stuff. So we talk about that with the kids, but they understand. They've seen teams that we've had in the past that have been ranked and have had some success. So they kind of learn from that, and they know that you can't really have an off night because each game is super important. So they stay pretty focused.
Cool. Last night, January 17th, Thursday, you guys played at Nedrose, beat them 64-30. Just kind of overall, what were your initial thoughts on that game?
The one thing I said, I didn't think we had a ton of energy for the game, but Nedrose, they've obviously started a new program, and they've come a long way, and they're doing a good job over there. So it was a good game for us, good district game, a good win for us. And so, for the most part, I thought we played defensively, we played really well. Offensively, we lacked some energy a little bit, but for the most part, it was a good win. Anytime you can win a district game, it's good.
I've talked to a few coaches now, and this season's probably hit the halfway point, I would say. And some coaches are, our team is getting a little tired. We're not bringing the energy in that first half. How do you guys, do you talk to your players about that? How we have to keep the energy up. We still got a second half to play.
Yeah, we rely on pace of play. How many possessions can we get per game? So our kids kind of know that's the key for us to win games. So they come out with that mentality that, hey, we're going to play as fast as we can, lots of energy, and their goal is to kind of they got it in their mind that they're in the best shape going to try and run with anybody and try and, wear out their legs. So in the fourth quarter, when shots start falling a little short, we're still pretty fresh and we can get after it. So their mentality is they just want to get out and run. So energy is not usually a huge part of it. We usually find energy on our defensive side where we can get buckets going, and then once they see the ball go in the hole, that kind of brings everybody up a little bit.
You guys are ranked number 2 in state, just behind Thompson there at 9-0, 149 points from the polls. Do you guys talk about that ranking at all?
We just mention it. We don't care what it is. We do mention it just that night in and night out. If we're going to be the number 2 in the state, we talk about we got to practice like we're the number 2 in the state. We can't have those days where that was a bad practice. We can't have bad practice. We got to be locked in when we're in the gym, and then we do talk about bringing it every night because you do have a target on your back, and somebody wants to knock you off. So we mention that a little bit, but as far as we're the number 2 team in the state, we can overlook these teams. We're not like that. We're focused on one game at a time, and hopefully we can continue that.
Cool. Couple questions left here. Do you guys have like a team motto or team saying or anything?
Kind of. The biggest thing we always talk about is just get better every day. We don't practice just for the sake of practice. We want to get something out of it every time that we're in the gym. So if there was one, we always talk about get better every day.
Cool. Awesome. I like it. And final question. Last year you guys had your season ended by Bishop Ryan, on March 9th in that Region 6 championship game, 56-45. Obviously, the team every year, every team wants to go to state. That's a goal. Do you guys really believe that you guys can get past that championship game and get into state this year?
I think we do. I think we're a different team than we were last year. We're a little bit longer. We might shoot the ball as a team a little bit better. And unfortunately for us, Ryan lost some really big kids to graduation. So they're kind of a different team than they were last year as well. So I think we have a really nice chance of doing it. If we can stay healthy and things work out, you need a little. Haven't been there a couple times. You need a little luck in order to get to state every year, it seems like. So if we can stay healthy and luck falls in our way just a little bit, I think we got a really good chance. All
right, Coach. I lied. One more question to finish off here. Who's a sneaky team in Region 6? Do you feel a team that not many people are looking at, and kind of a team that's overperformed this year so far?
For me, I would say it's Lewis and Clark Berthold.
Okay.
They're really well coached. Chris Brown over there does a fantastic job, and they have some kids that are able to put up a lot of points. So I think they're a team that's been kind of on a roll here a little bit, and they're a little scary sometimes if you catch them in the region tournament or something.
For sure. All right, Coach. Hey, I appreciate taking the time, and good luck the rest of the way.
All right, thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
Again, thank you everyone for listening. It's much appreciated. Give us a follow, Facebook, Twitter. You already know our website. I've only said it a fair amount of times throughout the first podcast. So thanks everyone again. Hope you have a good start to your week on Monday. And we'll be back with the Class B podcast. Hopefully towards the end of the week, we'll kind of recap games that happened throughout the week. And then we'll kind of preview some games moving forward in the weekend. And hopefully have another interview with a coach. And I know we have some things set up right now, and we're just trying to lock them down. And hopefully get a couple. Hopefully it'll be nice to maybe get 2 interviews, girls head coach and a boys head coach in each podcast, and just listen, get some insight from both sides. So that'd be super special as well. So thanks again everyone for listening. Have a good rest of your week.